Okay, the next topic is about finding the center and the radius of a given equation of the circle. This time, the equation of the circle is given as x squared plus y squared minus 4x plus 10y plus 13 equals 0. Now, when you look at this equation, we cannot tell the center or the radius of a given circle. For example, so we're looking at a circle that will be centered somewhere and that will have some radius. So the center of the circle, we always call that h comma k, and the radius is always called r. So we need to find the center and the radius of this given equation of the circle. The first thing to do is to take this constant. See, this is the only number that doesn't have any variables. So we need to isolate it. We need to move it on the right-hand side by taking away 13 from both sides so that we can get x squared plus y squared minus 4x plus 10y equals negative 13. So that's the first step. Now the second step will be to complete the square. So the process of completing the square, I'm going to explain it. It requires that first we need to move the x variables together and the y variable next to each other. So here's the x variable. So we have x squared and then we have negative 4x. We're going to put them together. And then we're going to move the y variables together. So we have y squared and then plus 10y. And on the other side, we have negative 13. So all I did was rearrange this in terms of the common variables. The x variables go together and the y variables go next to each other, and then that number is still on the right-hand side. So the next process or next step now is going to be completion of the square. So we need to complete the square. How do we complete the square? Now this is the process we're going to do, so I want you to watch this carefully. Take the coefficient of x. The coefficient of x means the number in front of x, okay, including the sign. So the number in front of x is negative 4, okay? So take that number, divide that number by 2. So we're going to divide it by 2. It is going to give us negative 2. Now take that number, negative 2, that you got by division by 2, square it, so that you're going to get 4. Now when you get that number 4, you're going to add that number to the equation. So meaning, you're going to put that number next to negative 4x. But because you add something on one side of the equation, you must do the same thing on the other side. So on the other side of the equation, you must also add 4. So that you added 2 numbers on both sides of the equation. So the equation still remains as an equation. It's still in equilibrium. Okay? So by doing this process, these 3 terms now can be written as x. Take this number, negative 2, put it here, and then square that. So these 3 terms, we call that trinomial, can become a binomial. So we can rewrite it as x, always x, plus or minus. It depends on this number that you got by dividing the coefficient of x by 2. So negative 4 divided by 2 gives you negative 2. That's the negative 2 that you see here, and then you're going to square the whole quantity. And then plus. So then we're done with the coefficient of x. We're done with the x terms. Now we can go to the y terms. Now we do the same thing. We look for the coefficient of y. So the coefficient of y is 10. Now we're going to take 10. We're going to divide 10 by 2. Is going to give us 5. Now when we get 5, we're going to take that 5, we're going to square it so that we can get 25. And that 25, we're going to add it to both sides of the equation. Okay? So we add 25 to both sides of the equation. So therefore, this trinomial can now be written as a binomial. So we write it as y plus, now we took 10 divided by 2, we got 5. So plus this 5. And then we square it. So that becomes a binomial. And then we can combine these terms. So here we have what? Negative, so we have what? 25 plus 4, that gives us 29. And then minus 13. So we get 6 and 1. So we get 16, which we put over here. So now our equation becomes just x minus 2 square plus y plus 5 square equals 16. Now, here's the standard equation of the circle. The standard equation of the circle is always like this: x minus h square plus y minus k square equals r square. So now we can compare. Now, the center of the circle is h comma k. So here's the center. Is always given as h comma k. Now we need to find h. Now we're going to compare. H is here. So if we compare these two quantities, h is the x coordinate. That's why we're looking at the x coordinate. K is the y coordinate. So that's why we're going to look for k here. So for h, we look for it here. So we're going to compare x with x. We compare negative 1 with negative sign with negative sign, so that h must be 2. Okay? So we know h equals 2. And then we can go to y. We compare this with this. So y compare with y. Y equals y. Now, if we compare negative k with plus 5, that means that k is negative 5. Say k is negative 5 because you can write plus 5. See, you can write plus 5 as negative minus 5. So if you do that, then you can compare negative with negative so that k is negative 5. So you get negative 5, which is k. And you have your center now to be 2 comma negative 5. Now, we can go to the radius. To get the radius, we're going to compare these two. We compare r squared with 16. If we compare r squared with 16, if r squared equals 16, then r must be 4. Because we can, to get r, we're going to take the square root of 16. Now, one might say plus and minus, but the radius is the distance. And the distance is always positive. That's why we're only getting r equals 4, not minus 4 or negative 4. Okay? So hence, the radius is 4. So now, we know this circle is centered at 2, negative 5, and has the radius 4. So if you really want to draw it, you could, I don't have a space really, but if I want to draw this circle, I could do it here. So if this is my x and y coordinates, so if this is x and y coordinate, now I can place 2 here. Okay, this is 2. So I'm trying to plot the center, and negative 5, let's assume negative 5 here. So the center of my circle is right there. So this is 2 comma negative 5. Now since the radius is 4, so if I can go here 4 units, so I can stop at negative 1, so then I can just draw the circle. So here's my circle that is centered at 2 comma negative 5, and its radius is 4.